After a very long break, the 2024-2025 CAF Champions League is back with a bang. We have four outstanding quarterfinal matches to look out for, and we're going to preview all of them and more coming up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. As always, I'm your host, Maher Mezahi, and as always, this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. Last week, I recommended an article on the website called The Legacy of France's Colonial Violence in the Indian Ocean is One Stone That Contemporary Mainstream Media Tends to Leave Unturned. Actually, I think that's the description of the article, not the actual name of the article, but I'm going to recommend that article for a second week straight. I think it's the first time I do that on this podcast, but I just thought it was so good that I wanted to recommend it twice. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the matches. As you can probably tell if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not at home. Today is Eid in Algeria. It's Monday, March 31st, and I'm at my in-laws' place in rural Algeria, far from Algiers, with cows, with chickens, sheep. So if you hear anything going on in the background, that probably explains it, as well as probably the lower quality of the audio as well. But still, I couldn't not record an episode because the CAF Champions League waits for no man, woman, or child, and it's been 2 months that I've been looking forward to these matches. I couldn't record this earlier because we had to wait for the team news to come out, and when it finally did come out, um, obviously we've been busy with 8 things. So without further ado, let's just get into the matches because I know that's what you guys are here for. And I'm going to start with the first match that's going to be played tomorrow, April 1st, and that's Mamelodi Sundowns versus Esperance de Tunis. I said a few months ago when this matchup was first, drawn, when these two teams were first drawn together, that this was the match that if you were to take the quality of the two sides on aggregate of all the quarterfinal ties, I think this one has the most quality on aggregate. Mamelodi Sundowns and Esperance de Tunis are two legitimate contenders to win the CAF Champions League. And so I think this is going to be probably the toughest match in the quarterfinals. Now, for Mamelodi Sundowns, this match is going to be tough in my opinion because they come into this match with a lot more wear and tear. Many Mamelodi Sundowns players make up the core of the South African national team, as we all know. So you have players like Ronwen Williams, Jaden Adams, Kulisu Mudau, Tapelo Morena, even Teboho Mokoena, even though he didn't play the second match for South Africa. These are players that played serious minutes for the South African national team, and then after the international break, they're going to play at least one more match in the Nedbank Cup on Friday. So just 3 days before the match against Esperance. Now, thankfully, Miguel Cardozo, the Mamelodi Sundowns coach, he rotated all of those players except for Ronwen Williams, who played 120 minutes in the Nedbank Cup, by the way. Some of those players came on as substitutes, but at least they got a little bit of a breather in that sense. And this has always been something that, I thought was fascinating when I read about South African football, when I listen to the conversations that are being had within South African football. It's like the league versus the clubs versus the national team, all competing for how much access that they have to these players, how much usage they can respectively have with each one of these players. It's like they're fighting for the players almost. It's not something that I really see too often at any other level, except for maybe the Egyptian national team with Al-Ahli. Um, yeah, that might be the only exception because sometimes you get Al-Ahli sort of a little bit of tension with the national team and the Club World Cup, and then they start blaming CAF. That's the only other example I could think of in Africa. But I always thought this was a little bit of a bizarre tension that exists really because it's not really the case in Algeria or in many countries on the continent. Still, that said, like I mentioned, Sundowns, their players have gone through a bunch of minutes throughout the month of March and a lot of travel as well. So that's not to mention, South African players have to go to Benin, um, and so on and so forth. Esperance de Tunis, on the other hand, uh, none of their players started any matches for the Tunisian national team, and they only played just one friendly match after the international break, uh, where the starters only really played 45 minutes or so. So they're going to come in physically much fresher. Um, that said, the travel was a bit hectic. They weren't able to charter a flight directly to South Africa. They had to stop in Dubai with, I think, a 4 or 5 hour layover. And as a result, apparently that was a little bit of a tough trip on the players. Um, Other things that we should probably talk about are that it's not Ramadan anymore. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we're celebrating Eid today on Monday. Some areas of the world celebrated yesterday on Sunday. I don't know what it was in South Africa, but since that is the case, the fact that this kickoff is going to be at 3 p.m. local time, I think is going to be less of an issue. We saw during the international break, Algeria go play in Botswana at 3 p.m. We saw Tunisia play against Liberia at around 5 or 6 p.m. local time as well. Those were very, very difficult matches physically on the players who were not able to replenish as the match was going on. It's not going to be the case anymore, don't get me wrong. There's still that famous thing of North African sides can't cope with the afternoon heat in Southern Africa. It's going to be much less of a factor now that it's not Ramadan. That's another thing to note. Another thing to note is that Mamelodi Sundowns are opening doors for free. And that's, I think, important for these matches. We've noticed that when Sundowns do this at Loftus, they tend to do get a pretty decent crowd. And now that we're in the knockout stages, the importance of having a good, if possible, intimidating crowd is very, very important. So Sundowns doing that, I think, is good. It's forward thinking. It's a little bit, I've read my friend at CAF Champions League that say that it's a little bit embarrassing as well. Maybe I wouldn't go that far, but in an ideal world, of course, Sundowns would be making, ticket money for a match of this importance as well. But that's not. We'll get there hopefully one day. But yeah, now we're in the knockout stages, and Sundowns are chasing another CAF Champions League. Sometimes I think of that GTA meme, like, ah, here we go again, and that's kind of like what it is for Sundowns. Um, that said, I think this is the best starting 11 and best overall group of players I think that they've had really since they've won the CAF Champions League in 2016. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know. I don't really see a weakness, especially since they really did well in the winter transfer window. I think they probably had the best winter transfer window of any other club in Africa, bringing in a defender like Suarez, bringing in a midfielder like Jaden Adams, and then their starting attack was already very, very good. And the Sundowns, what I think makes them especially strong this year compared to previous years is that they can do anything to you. They can score in any way. I don't really see a weakness. They can score off set pieces, they can score off counterattacks, they can hold on to possession and break you down slowly, slowly. They can do everything. I think that's the main difference actually from this Sundowns team compared to like a Rulani Mokoena one, which maybe wasn't as strong on set pieces, for example. Player that said, player quality was never really a big issue for Sundowns, right? It was always um, mental mistakes in these knockout stages of the CAF Champions League. Um, Player quality is better now, like I said, but I think that's only going to make a minute difference. I think the biggest difference here is mental mistakes. It's where these matches are won and lost in the CAF Champions League knockout stages. We think about the last 2 years that Sundowns made it to the semifinals, for example, two theatrical goals that they conceded against Wydad Casablanca 2 years ago, and last year Esperance de Tunis parks the bus and scores a goal with just 3 touches, just 3 touches. Um, that was that was embarrassing in my opinion, to lose in that way at home at Loftus. Um, so yeah, mental mistakes cannot be made for Mamelodi Sundowns, but we'll get into the keys of the game a little bit later. Let's get into the team news for Esperance de Tunis. So we talked about the travel being hectic. The coaching was also a bit hectic for Esperance. They made a coaching change. This is their third coach of the season. They started the year with Miguel Cardozo, who's currently coaching Mamelodi Sundowns, and then they brought in Laurențiu Regeconf, Romanian manager who was very much known for his attacking play. But just after 3, 4 poor performances, there was a lot of grumbling at home, and now they brought in Maher El who coached Esperance de Tunis before in the past. He's coached the Tunisian under-20s. Very well respected domestic coach that knows the National League, that knows the club, and is expected to be able to shore over this transition pretty stably, right? So yeah, most Esperance fans, I think, admit that this is not ideal to change a coach at this point in the season. But at the same time, I think most also feel confident that Kenzadi is tactically competent. He knows the players and the mentality pretty well. He won't change too much, and that he's going to be able to do a decent job. That said, and this is not specifically aimed at Esperance de Tunis, short-termism is the number one disease of North African football, in my opinion. Because objectively, if you look at the two coaches for these two teams, I think, and you take a straw poll, I think many people would say that Miguel Cardozo is the more accomplished, the better coach of the two. And he was at Esperance de Tunis at the beginning of the year. Like, just because you lose, or you have poor results, not even you lose, you have poor results to drop points in two, three, four matches, that's not an excuse to sack somebody, Especially if you believe in long-term results, you know, across many different leagues and across many different objectives. Because essentially what happens then is like this becomes a habit, it becomes a reflex, and it becomes a justification to get rid of a coach. And now, if you look at like every single club in the top leagues in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, all the way over to Libya and Egypt as well, it's like it's crazy land. They that the very first counter result, they're gonna shoot the coach in the they're gonna shoot the coach in the head. Like really, it's a very violent example. I don't know why I came up with that, but the point is like if you bring in a coach on big money, it's because you believe in his vision, right? If you really want to build something special, it's gonna take months and months, if not years, to put in place a style of play. So if you have the right coach, give that coach time. If not, you're just going to be jumping from short-term solution to short-term solution to short-term solution, and it's just going to cost you so much in salaries. It's going to cost you a lot uh, and in the end, you can't. If you're the administrator of a club, you can't even stand by your decision. Ultimately, the fans get used to it, and they feel like they can get rid of a coach whenever they want to, and that's not a good idea as well. Anyways, Esperance come into this match with a few knocks. Ashraf Jabri, the striker, Mohamed Amin Tougay, the center half, Rodrigo Rodriguez, the other striker, Brazilian striker. They're with the group, but they're not sure to play. Some of these injuries, like Rodrigo Rodriguez, he's been struggling with injury throughout the year. Tougay and Jabri, it's been, I think, 3, 4 weeks. But yeah, one of my main worries about Esperance de Tunis is that Ahmed Al their goalkeeper that was one of the best young goalkeepers in Africa last year and was nominated so during the CAF Awards, has been really struggling for form. And then their two center halves are simply not fit. Yassine Maria has ruled out throughout the entire year with a ruptured knee ligament injury, and Mohamed Amin Tougai, the other center half, the Algerian of 25, 26 years old, he's been struggling with an injury for the last 4 weeks or so, and it would be his first game back if he plays here, so I'm not even sure he's going to be match fit. And so as a result, they might be playing with Ben Hamida, Mohamed Amin Ben Hamida, who's supposed to be a left back as one of the center halves. They might be playing with the backup center half, Hamza Jalasi, as well, who's not the most reliable defensively. And this is something that scares me a little bit because Esperance Tunis was really the team that I thought would be the favorite this year. I thought they were definitely a team that could win CAF Champions League. They were my pick because of their very strong summer transfer window. But the injuries and the instability is what's scaring me a little bit. On their day, they can be anybody. But yeah, just the lack of defensive solidity is what I think is really going to make a difference here. So, uh, the keys for me, if you're Mamelodi Sundowns, be mindful of stupid mistakes. In the CAF Champions League group stages, Mamelodi Sundowns had 3 red cards in 6 matches. No other team had more than one. They had 3 red cards and 9 yellow cards. I think the highest, if I'm not mistaken, was 12 yellow cards. So they had a high number of red and yellow cards. So not acceptable in the knockout stages, right? You give any kind of advantage to the opposition, particularly a red card, and your chances of qualifying go take a huge nosedive. So mindful of stupid mistakes, no bad challenges, no mouthing off to the referee. These are the things that will get you beat. Um, Number two, in this match in Pretoria, the midfield battle will be won by Mamelodi Sundowns. Mamelodi Sundowns have probably the best midfield in Africa with Mokoena, Allende, and Jaden Adams or Batuzi Obas. So the midfield battle will, even I think on neutral territory, would be won by Mamelodi Sundowns, but definitely in Pretoria because Esperance de Tunis are not going to look to win a midfield battle. They're going to be looking to sit back and defend. So if Esperance is not going to try to fight you on that front, what I want to know with Mamelodi Sundowns is that can they somehow, some way find a way to isolate their attacking quality against the weakness of Esperance that we just spoke about, which is the back line and the goalkeeper, right? Because when you look at Ikram Reyners, Peter Shalalile, Lucas Ribeiro, They've been very, very good in the CAF Champions League. Can you isolate them against some of these makeshift defenders, these backline, this fullback that's deputizing as a center half, Hamza Jadassi that makes a lot of mistakes as well. So, and how do you do that? Usually it's done with counterattacks. Um, that's done, by making sure you change the pace, you change the rhythm very quickly. Find a way to isolate them. That's what I'm saying, because they're going to be sitting back a lot of the time. But if you can find a way to isolate them, that's how you're going to be able to hurt them. Finally, for Esperance de Tunis, my key is that the individual brilliance of the Esperance attack needs to find a way to get an own goal if and catch Sundown sleeping. So in this way, I even think about maybe starting Elias Mokwana as a number 9, just because of his speed. Um, because it's not sure who's going to be the front three of Esperance de Tunis. Maybe Yan Sass, it might definitely be Youssef Belali, maybe Yan Sass, definitely be Elias Mokwana, maybe Rodrigo Rodriguez, or maybe Diakite, the new striker they brought in from Mali. But whatever it is, some kind of individual brilliance needs to shine through. And it's probably going to have to come from Youssef Belali and Elias Mokwana. My prediction is that it's going to be a tight draw, in that kind of stifling heat. Esperance is not going to be looking forward to go up at all. They're just going to frustrate Sundowns, and they're either going to draw like a 1-1 draw, or it's going to be a narrow Sundowns win, especially like I said, if they can isolate, Rainers against Hamza Jalasi, or Rainers against um, Mohamed Amin Ben Hamida, or Lucas Ribeiro against any of the Esperance defenders. That's how Sundowns can win this match 2-1. But even then, it's going to be a very dangerous lead to take back to Tunis. Next match, MCA Algiers versus Orlando Pirates. 50,000 tickets were sold for this match. Stadium capacity of 67,000. The rest is going to be given as invitations to sponsors. Don't worry, it's going to be full. 50,000 tickets sold within 5 hours. Online, I should say. For those of you that don't know Algeria, there's not a big online culture, online buying culture. Everything is paid for in cash. Um, Last night, the eve of Eid, huge pyro show in Algiers. There's a crazy amount of motivation for Mamelodi of Algiers. I don't think I can explain it to you and portray this enough. You have to sort of be in Algiers to feel it, or you have to be in Algiers to feel it. Like last week, I had 4 conversations with 4 different sets of people. So like football fans, fans of Mouloudia, general football fans, non-football fans. 4 conversations with 4 very different profiles and very different personalities, and we all talked about the match. It's like I think the most anticipated CAF Champions League match, in my opinion, for an Algerian club since ES City won the entire thing in 2014. The excitement is absolutely palpable. You can feel it particularly in Algiers. And even like throughout these quarterfinal matches, if I look at anticipation from the home fans, Mouloudia of Algiers definitely are taking this. They have the most anticipation there's the most excitement here. And speaking to Mamelodi of Algiers fans, they all have a lot of respect for Pirates, particularly because Pirates beat Sierra Belouizdad in the early group stages of the CAF Champions League. And that was something at the time that I told you, like, that this is going to make a shockwave. This is going to be a shockwave. This is going to impress people in Algeria. And it's something that I think it was very, very important for Pirates to do, because doing that, they already struck another blow in the knockout stages if they were going to come up against Mamelodi of Algiers or another Algerian club in the knockout stages. It's like, ah, yeah, we can go to your country and win in Algeria, because Algerian football fans, they always feel very comfortable at home. It's like a comfort zone. Like, nobody can beat us out. Well, not when we're at home. We can lose the tie, but when we're at home, and Sierra Belouizdad getting beat by a young Pirate side, I think it was in the first match day of the group stages. That struck a psychological blow, and Mamelodi of Algiers fans, they have it in their mind as well. Now, what you have to know about MC of Algiers, because if you've been watching this podcast, like in the group stages, 4 clean sheets out of the 6 matches, only conceded 2 goals, best defense in the entire CAF Champions League. Very, very good jobs from the goalkeeper, the defenders, and so on and so forth. Um, so you're expecting sort of a very conservative MC of Algiers side. Um the MC of Algiers that played the group stages is not the MC of Algiers that's playing in the quarterfinals. A lot has changed over the last 2 to 3 months. Um, Most important thing is there's been a coaching change. So we went from Patrice Baumel, former Ivorian coach, Ivorian national team manager, to Khalid Ben Yahya, Tunisian coach, former coach of Esperance de Tunis and MC of Algiers. Now, Khalid Ben Yahya was brought in on December 20th. He's been in charge for 16 matches. In those 16 matches, he has 10 victories, 5 draws, and 1 loss. And the only loss was to Sierra Belouizdad, a very good side. in the Algerian Cup. He's averaging about 2 goals per game, and if you don't remember, that was one of the biggest problems for MC of Algiers, that they were not scoring enough. Now he's averaging 2 goals per game, but they're also conceding about a goal per game as well. So it's a different side than the one that was playing in the group stages, or even the one that was playing in the league at the beginning of the year. I think when Khalid Ben Yahya came in, so under Patrice Baumel, they had played 14 league matches and they had only conceded about 7 goals, so about half a goal per game, and now they're at one per game. So this is a little bit different. It's a little bit more of an attacking side, a little bit more of a brave side, a courageous side that likes to go forward. Now, that's actually rewarded the club because they've had really good results. They've created some separation in the league. They're first. I think they lead by 7 points. And there's also been some, besides the stylistic changes, there's been some personnel changes. The big name striker from French football, Andy Delors, came and left. He wasn't really a big success over here. It reminds me of Anthony Modeste when he came from Borussia Dortmund to Ahly last year, and then it just didn't really work out. Instead, they've been going with this, not no name, but like this not very well known Algerian striker, Sofiane Bayazid. Um, he's has 7 goals in 2025, so he's in form. Emmanuel Kipre Jr. from Ivory Coast on the right wing instead of Taïd Miziani has been a big change as well. He's been so good for Khalid Ben Yahya on the right wing. They've also signed in January a really good Guinean striker, Mohamed Ben Goura from Hafia Conakry. He's has 2 goals in 3 matches, and it's been a nice 1-2 punch between him and Bayazid. Bangura is more powerful, takes shots from outside of the box, more of an aerial threat, and Bayazid is more of like a darting striker that can get in behind defenders, can really trouble you with his pace and his instincts in front of goal. So yeah, honestly, attacking, they're much more impressive um, than they were in the group stages. Um, Now, unlike Mamelodi Sundowns, Pirates didn't have as hectic a schedule. The only players that really featured for Bafana were Mofokeng and CBC. Dion Hoto played for Namibia, of course, as well. Um, but they still have some fitness concerns. So Cezani, the center half, who played most of the group stage matches, has been out for a while. Patrick Masongani missed the international break with Bafana because of an injury. He's uncertain for this match. But Monapule Salang is back in training after all that drama for the last few months about him wanting to go to Al Ahly and that not being accepted and so on and so forth. Is he fit for this match? Is Tito fit for this match? Will it matter? These are all questions that are going on in my head. As we know, Pirates were, in my opinion, the side that played the best football in the group stages. I think they shocked everybody by beating Al Ahly in Al Ahly, even though that Al Ahly side was very. Uh, they were marked by a lot of injuries and yeah, they weren't, I think, heavily motivated at the same time. But still, winning in Cairo, that deserves credit for sure. Um, Now, I just want to talk about one player because we've talked about Rela Bohila Mofokeng a lot, but I want to talk about him some more. I watched him for both matches for South Africa, and he played, I thought, really well. And he's hot. I mean, like over the last, he had 2 good games there. He beat Mamelodi Sundowns with a brace prior to the international break. And I opened up his game logs from this year, from 2024, 2025, and I just looked at the matches he scored in, and it seems like he has his best matches in the biggest moments, like the brace for Sundowns, the last 3 matches of the group stages where there was a lot of tension between Orlando Pirates and Sierra Belouiz, that he had 3 goals in the last 3 matches of the CAF Champions League group stages. He scores in the MTN 8 final. Uh, that's a special quality that he steps up and plays big when it matters the most. Um, that's one thing that I think Pirates are going to need here. That's one of the keys. I'm gonna give it in advance, but that's one of the keys is can he step up again in a big moment? And then finally, I think Pirates are going to learn a lot about their chances in this match of the CAF Champions League. Um, when you're playing in in this knockout stage now, when you're going to have to go to a Cairo, I don't think you're going to be able to play in Cairo like you played in the group stages. You're going to have to go to Tunis. You're going to have to go to whatever Rabat or Algiers. I think Pirates are going to have to defend deeper than they're used to defending. So can you defend deep, which means can you defend crosses? How dangerous are you in transition? How efficient are you in transition? These are answers that are necessary for later in the competition. If Pirates can do that, then they're going to show us something that we haven't seen from them before, and that's going to be very conducive to their success in this competition. So my keys here for MCA Algiers, set pieces. It's been a problem for Orlando Pirates all season. It's been a strength for MCA Algiers all season. Will they be a factor in this match? I think they will. If MCA Algiers can score a goal, it's probably going to come from a set piece. Number two, who can stay cool and calm in such an atmosphere? Again, it's difficult to describe to you guys if you're not in Algeria, but there's really a lot of excitement in this match. These fans can really pack a punch. They're going to pack out the stadium, 67,000. I might be in the stadium. Playing there is not like anything that I think Orlando Pirates players will have experienced before. And I say that with all humility. Like, unless you played at the Mohammed V Stadium in Casablanca, unless you played, I think that's probably the only comparison. Then you've never experienced something like this before. So, can Pirates players can they stay cool and calm in such an atmosphere? Uh, why does that matter? If you can stay cool, if you can stay calm, if you can stay measured in your head while the match is being played, then when you're counterattacking, talk about being efficient when you're counterattacking, you're you're not gonna be worried about I have to do something here, I have to do something here. Like you're not gonna be scared almost, you can make the right decisions when you're counterattacking when you're in the final third, if you're MCA of Algiers as well, because they also, I mean, it's pressure on Pirates, but also it's also pressure on MCA playing in front of a crowd like that because the crowd can lose patience. So if the crowd loses patience, do you lose patience? Because they can sort of seep through osmosis. If MCA of Algiers players can navigate that atmosphere as well, they can make better choices in the final third. Maybe they don't whip any useless cross. Maybe they don't take a shot from 35 yards when there's a better pass to be had. And then finally, the last key to the match is can Raleigh Mofokeng step up again? So my prediction here is going to be a scoring draw. MC of Algiers maybe 1-1 Orlando Pirates or 2-2, something like that. But it's going to be a tight match. And I wouldn't be surprised to see MC of Algiers win this match. I really wouldn't, but it's going to be tight. These first two matches with the South African clubs are going to be, in my opinion, the tightest matches of this quarterfinals. Next, we have Al Ahly versus Al Hilal. Al Ahly have only played two competitive matches since February 26th. Mamelodi Sundowns played five. Um, and Al Ahly, this is like MC of Algiers, this is a completely different Al Ahly side. First of all, they're healthy again. Players like Mohamed Hani, Ashraf Dari are two examples. Defensive players that all of a sudden they don't have to, deputize with like these players that like decent players like Khalid Abdel Fattah and these guys, but Akram Tawfiq is like now all of a sudden they can play players in their positions. Now they also signed some good players. Ashraf bin Sharqi, particularly former Wydad Casablanca winger, Nejc Gradishar, Slovenian striker, signed I think for 1 million euros, and they've been really, really good signings. So this is a different Al Ahly side that they got healthy and they've also made good signings. That said, I don't love the mood in Cairo because I spent all of last night, stayed up till 4 in the morning, looking online for news about this match from an Ahly perspective, and all Egyptian websites are talking about their decision, if you've been keeping up, in the Cairo derby. And now in the Cairo derby, they're supposed to be playing with foreign referees, yeah. And if this was like 2 weeks ago, maybe, and they were going to play the match with no foreign referees, so Al Ahly protested that decision. They forfeited the match, um, and now Zamalek were awarded the 3 points, and Al Ahly were also supposed to be punished, I think, an extra 3 points. But I think, again, if I read it correctly, the Egyptian footballing authority said, no, we're going to just punish them for forfeiting the match. We're not going to dock an extra 3 points. And so now there's like a huge drama, between Zamalek and Pyramids and Al Ahly were threatening to withdraw from the league and so on and so forth. And that's all Egyptian websites are talking about is this drama. Nobody's talking about the match against Al Hilal in 24 to 48 hours. So I think they seem a little bit distracted, to be honest. Almost no mention of the Al Hilal match. Um, so yeah, that's something that worries me. Another thing that worries me in the general perception overall, I think, is that this is not the same team that won 4 out of 5 uh, last CAF Champions Leagues, right? I think everybody agrees on that. I mean, we've seen signs of that throughout the group stages when they had their unbeaten streak snapped. That was an unbeaten streak that they had going for 2, 3 years. They also lost at home to Orlando Pirates again. That was a match where they had a lot of players playing in out of position, a lot of injuries, but still, they lost at home to a good side in Orlando Pirates. All of that said, we say like it's not the same team and everything. All of that said, they still have the most shots on target out of any team in the group stages. second most passes completed after Mamelodi Sundowns, second most touches in the opposition box after CR Belouizdad, and the most big chances missed. So if they were a little more efficient, they would have been even better with the goals that they could have scored. So, I mean, if you see all of the statistics, you'd say anyone would take that for an off year, right? That's pretty damn good still. Um, and I also think that this is a little bit of a dream matchup for Al Ahly as they continue to get healthier and build momentum. I think if you could give them any side that they wanted to play in these quarterfinals, I think they would have picked Al Hilal. No disrespect to Al Hilal, but as we get into Al Hilal, um, Al Hilal were a little bit of a weird one in the CAF Champions League stages because it was a tale of two halves in the group stages. They got off to a flying start with 3 wins and 9 points. And then in the last three matches, no wins and 1 point, including a 4-0 loss to TP Mazembe. So if you talk about just sheer form, they're the most out of form side of any of these eight. And I think that's one of the reasons why Al Ahly would have probably wanted to face them. We talked about Al Ahly being a different side in terms of signings and style of play and everything. Al Hilal are not really a different side at all. They didn't really make any big signings in January. Um, and yet the tale of two half things is really weird because you start asking yourself a question, were they never that good anyways? Or did something happen? Were they no longer motivated? Were there injuries? It's probably a little bit of both. I think they won a few tight matches in those first three. And then towards the end, they did rotate. For example, in that TP Mazembe match, they, for example, didn't play their best goalkeeper, Issa Fofana. They put in Abu Ashrin, who gave up a few gag goals as he's used to doing this year. So yeah, it's probably a little bit of a mix of both. Still, they're running things in the Mauritanian league. If they win, half of the matches that they have in hand, which is I think five, then they're going to be top of the league. Even though they lost the derby to Al Mariq a few weeks back, I still think the key for Al Hilal here, and it's again foreshadowing a little bit, is that they need their young players to play the best. Like Jean-Claude Giroud-Mugisha, Issa Fofana, Adama Koulibaly. These are players that almost single-handedly won the matches during the group stages, and I think they're going to have to step up and do that again this time around. Um, we talked about the statistics of Al Ahly being so impressive. Al Hilal they only feature in the top three of any statistics, goals, XG, shots, etc. Just one category in the top three, and that's successful long balls, which, if you remember at the beginning of the group stages, they were very, very vertical in how they were scoring their goals. And I can only really see that being a factor if Al Ahly doesn't score within the first 75 minutes of this match. They start getting desperate, they start pushing up, then Al Hilal can be dangerous on the counter attack. So, uh, keys to the match: if you're Al Ahly, the Egyptian side, you need to be sharp and focused and score early. If you score early, you have a lot of pressure off of you, and you don't have to worry about committing too many men forward and being caught out with the counter attack with the speed of like Yasser Muzammil and Nadama Koulibaly if he plays, because he has a slight injury concern, and Jean-Claude Giroud-Mugisha. If you're Al Hilal, I think you're going to need some miraculous play from one of your youngsters and or your goalkeeper. And then I think the last key for me is the midfield battle, the likes of Imam Ashur, who's been one of the best players in the CAF Champions League, going up against, for example, the Al Hilal midfield, which is, they're very physical. Al Hajj Medike, Walidin Khidr, Kisum Fofana. That's very, very physical midfield. Can they bully Imam Ashur, or can he impose his style of play on them? My prediction here, though, is going to be uh, convincing win for Al Ahly. I think it's going to be 3-1 or something of the sort, 2-0, 3-1, something like that. Final match: Pyramids versus ASFR. Pyramids, like Al Ahly, a lot of the coverage about them is also them saying, "Oh, it's not fair that Al Ahly is no longer being docked 3 points." Nah, 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 nah. I find it all very boring. I don't like drama. So we talked about MC of Algiers scoring about 2 goals a game under their new coach Khalid bin Yahya. One coach, I don't know, I don't even think I mentioned him in the group stages, and that's a professional faux pas on my part. But Jurcic, the Croatian, Bosnian, I think he's Croatian, but I think of Bosnian origin, Pyramids coach. Under his stint, I think he's been in charge for 66 matches with Pyramids. They're averaging about 3 goals per game. That is crazy. This year, by the way, this season, he's only lost 3 matches. He lost to Zamalek in the Super Cup, who would go on to be champions in the Super Cup. He lost against Al Masri, very good side. Away from home, he lost to them in the league. A side that, by the way, is doing very well in the CAF Confederation Cup. And then he lost to Esperance de Tunis away from home as well. So, I mean, they have so much quality all over the pitch. We've mentioned this time and time again, like Ibrahim Adil, Mustafa Fathi, the wingers. Ramadan Sobhi had a great CAF Champions League group stages. Fiston Mayele is one of the best number nines in Africa. Blati Toure has so much experience in these competitions. Mohamed Lashin is important with his crossfield passing. The fullbacks, Mohamed Hamdi and Mohamed Shibi, very, very good as well. The only, in my opinion, the only questions I have is about the speed of their aging center halves. You know, whether it's Mura'i and even the goalkeepers are aging as well. Sharif Akrami and Ahmed Shinawi. Really, like you want to have experience in that position, but I think they can be caught out with balls over the top, counter-attacking play. That said, I don't really think that ISFAR are a team that, play with a lot of speed and try to get behind the opposing back line. So I don't think it's going to be a factor in this match, but it's something to watch out for in the coming matches. The other thing that I have a little bit of reticence about is that there's no real pressure from the crowd on ISFAR Rabat because, unlike, like Orlando Pirates when they go to Algiers, Pyramids, as we know, are a club that used to be called LSUT. They changed to Pyramids FC. They don't really have a strong fan base at all. There's going to be maybe 1,000 fans in the stadium, maybe 1,000, 2,000, something like that. And of them, maybe a quarter of them are actually going to be uh, hardcore Pyramids fans. So I think that will be also a factor at some point in the CAF Champions League knockout stages, but this early, I don't know. As far they have a new coach, Portuguese coach Alexander Santos. I thought the former coach, the French coach Hubert Veloud, was doing a good job, but unfortunately for him, we mentioned it one time on the podcast. He ruptured his Achilles, I think, just like walking around or jumping or something like that. Very weird injury for a coach to sustain. And as a result, he needed surgery and he couldn't really walk and be on the training ground every day. And so he came to an amicable solution with the club and they went their separate ways. So as far, they brought in a Portuguese coach, Alexander Santos, who was at Petro de Luanda when they were making their runs in the CAF Champions League 2, 3 years ago, and in the African Football League as well. Also, last year he was at, or this year he was at CS Sfax in Tunisia, a club that we call the Juventus of the Arabs because of their white and black strip. um, so yeah, he's a coach that has some African football pedigree. Um, And when you look at, his record overall, wherever he's gone, his clubs, they know how to defend pretty decently. They don't tend to score too many goals. So that really fits right in with how Asfar have been playing anyway, stylistically. That said, he's made a lot of changes since he's come in. He's been playing, Yusuf Al-Fahli, who's been playing as a right winger. He's been playing him as a striker, to good results because I think he's been scoring goals. Al-Arabi Naji, who is more of a defensive midfielder, has been playing as a center half. Enes Bash, who is more of a right back, has been playing as a defensive midfielder. He's been using Darrag more as a defensive midfielder. So yeah, there's been a lot of changes to ISFAR, and I don't know really what to make of it. They've been having decent results in, I think, the Moroccan Cup, and in the Moroccan League, they're still sitting in second, even though Berkane won the league. Um, yeah, uh, I just think that ISFAR are coming up against one of the best sides in Africa. When we talk about the clubs that have been, the best in Africa over the entire season. You talk about Berkane in the Confederation Cup, like dominance in the league and in the continental competitions. Talk about Pyramids. Um, and those really are the only two clubs that we can mention really that have been dominating their league and the continental competitions. MC of Algiers, for example, didn't finish first in their group, even though they're leading the league, but they didn't finish first in the group. They haven't been dominating in that sense. Even though they've been very, very good. They might be in the top five, for example. So yeah, my keys to the match. Can ISFAR score an away goal? That would be very, very important if they can, because at home they're going to create a crazy atmosphere. So they need to keep it close in Cairo. Um, the other thing, one of my keys to the match is tactically for ASFAR is that you tend to have very experienced defensive midfielders, Herimet, Naji, Bash if he plays there, Darag if he plays there, um, cover the cutbacks because what Pyramids love to do is they love to pin you in your final third, get as wide as possible, use those fullbacks, and the fullbacks get to the bylines and they cut the ball back into oncoming midfielders or inverted wingers who then get shots on goal. So players like Mustafa Fathi or Ibrahim Adil or any of the Ramadan Subhi, they can cross directly into Fistan Mayele or they can cut back the ball on the ground as well. So if you're ISFAR and you're in midfield, track your runners. Don't lose track of them. just because a fullback is getting down the byline, don't turn your head and start focusing on the ball and get caught ball watching. Always be aware of the people behind you because those fullbacks are so good at cutting the ball back. Um, and then finally, for my final key to the match for Pyramids, is Fiston Mayele needs to really have an effect in this match because I anticipate AFR like Esperance de Tunis in a sense and like Al Hilal. I think they're gonna defend deep, and if they defend deep, one of the ways that you can beat a defense that's doing that is to win your aerial duels in the box. And Fiston Mayele can be a bully in the box, and I think he's gonna have to be that for Pyramids if they want to make this an easy match. My prediction here is a convincing win for Pyramids. I think they can win 2-0. If ISPAR just score one goal and Pyramids win 2-1, that would be a huge result for ISPAR. Because remember, in Africa, we still have the away goals rule, and ISPAR and Rabat are going to be a handful to deal with. So uh, that's going to be the key for me. I don't even think ISPAR should think about winning this match or even drawing in Cairo. I think Pyramids are going to win. The question is, can ISPAR keep it close, and can they score an away goal here? So yeah, overall, very excited for these matches. I'm sure all of you are as well. I think tomorrow, I think I'm gonna wake up early in the morning, take a taxi back to Algiers, and try to go to this match, MCA of Algiers versus Orlando Pirates. Maybe try to vlog it. Yeah, that's the plan at least. So you guys can sort of get a feel for uh, what the CAF Champions League is like when you go to a match day experience here in North Africa. The crazy thing is the match is at 8 p.m. I think I'd have to be in the stadium around 2 p.m. or something like that. 2, 3. It's going to be like I'm telling you, the excitement is on another level, and I'd love to portray that via vlog if I can. Um, if I can't, then I'm going to try to at least put in a CAF Confederation Cup preview for Wednesday morning, and then we're going to recap all the matches on Wednesday morning as well. So a lot of content to come really this week. It's going to be jam-packed, so keep it locked in. And let me know which matches you're looking forward to. Let me know who you think is going to excel in the CAF Champions League quarterfinals. Very much looking forward to it. I know all of you are as well, so keep it locked in here on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Happy Eid to everybody that's celebrating. I know it's also, I think, Lent season for Christians as well, so happy Lent if you guys are celebrating that as well. And to any other religion celebrating anything, much love, peace and love in the world, and we'll speak all very soon. Peace.